Welcome, and you at the back, welcome. It is Planet Collingwood here on Revolution Radio Studio A. I am broadcasting from Wafer Thin HQ in a freezing Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, the land of Emperor Dan. Yeah, hopefully he gets thrown out. Anyway, there you go. Big thank you to Why Not and Co. for the Wi-Files. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, go to fruitandslips.com and or revolution.radio and donate what you can. Just click on the Patreon button at the top of the screen and donate whatever is possible. Don't mortgage your house unless you want to, free will and all that. While you're at the website, have a look at the merch. Bit of swag, bit of Zazzle store action. There's coffee mugs and caps and T-shirts and mouse pads. I believe maybe stickers. If they don't, I've just thought of a new thing for us. I think people would love a Planet Collingwood sticker. Be the only person in your state with a Planet Collingwood sticker. That'd be awesome. And then probably the chat room. Well, one of the chat rooms, which is very quiet. I turned up and... So there you go. So I think that's the housekeeping out of the way. I am back on YouTube. I uploaded last week's show today, so it is up there. But I've also, the show has been up on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute for the last 6 days anyway. So there you go. Now, a couple of gents that I popped my head out of the studio, looked on the sidewalk or footpath, for those in the Southern Hemisphere. And I found a couple of gents. It's Bruce and Raz. Bruce, how are you?
Good, thank you.
And Raz, how is the African side of the world?
It's good, thanks.
Yeah, well, and that was Planet Collingwood. We'll be back next week. No, sorry. Yeah, everything's fine. Back to you. I have no idea what to talk about. It's cold. Winter's finally turned up in winter. I mean, the shock alone. It's just odd, but also, yeah, it's very Australian. Geez, how hot is it? It's like it's summer. It's been like this for decades. And then winter, it's like, oh, how cold is it? It's winter. It's been like this for decades. Yeah. We don't get snow, though. I don't think many people could handle the snow. And I watched Lilo and Stitch. That's basically what I achieved today.
You watched the show starting with Gay? That has Obi in it, and the number one.
Oh, you mean Obi Wank and Obi? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, someone pointed that out.
Don't poke the bear, Raz. Don't poke the bear.
Someone pointed that out on YouTube. That hashtag Obi-Wan Kenobi, and so the W is a capital letter and the K is a double O. So it does look like Obi Wank in Obi. So
this bear, it's suffering from depression and is currently standing at the edge of a tall building and is threatening suicide. So I just want to poke it a little bit and see what happens.
Well, you're just poking yourself, really, there, Raz. Well, in short, I'm not enjoying it so far. Bad writing, bad acting, bad directing, and of course, I have criticism of Obi-Wan Kenobi, so therefore, I'm a racist because that started up as well.
Earlier this morning, because it's morning here, I was listening to The Real BBC by Nerdrotic. And Az and Mola and the girl. And they were talking about, the Civil War and all the drama at Lucas Art. It was quite informative what's going on in there.
If it's happening. But it's just, like, it's almost like spoilers, like, oh my God, Doctor Who may have a transsexual robot, which doesn't make sense, blah, 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 all rumors and all that type of stuff. And especially with Lucasfilm. I'll believe it when it's actually shown on Disney Plus. When the show actually is up for streaming, that's when I'll believe rumors. Like, apparently Rian Johnson has got a trilogy. It's like, well, it's been 5 years, and let's hope it's for another 5 years. So, but yeah, there is stuff. Well, let's just expand. Okay, Bruce and I, for those who have access to the archives, it is free, but I can't remember how to get into it. We filled in for Sean David Morton yesterday for Strange Universe, and it was a good 2 hours. There was flowing and information and chuckles, and we didn't mention entertainment at all. No TV shows. And so I think the universe is telling us that we have to start Planet Collingwood talking about entertainment. So let's just talk it as a whole, because I don't know too much about the Civil War in Lucasfilm. I'm sure there is one because there's people that like Star Wars and then there's people in charge. But we could expand that to Netflix, where they're cleaning house. Warner Brothers is cleaning house. They've realized they're not making money for the message, and so they may actually go back to good storytelling.
Everybody make money, everybody happy.
Yeah, and with the
that is actually very pertinent because Nerdrotic said probably the last company that will clean the house will be Disney.
Oh, of course. What you saw snippets of the video of those executives saying, "I'm trying to put trans stuff into kids shows," and that's what started off the whole Disney backlash, where people were leaving Disney Plus. They're not doing. I don't think the parks are doing well. I know the staff at the parks haven't done well for decades because they get treated like utter shite and paid under minimum wage, or just terribly. And it got to the point where Florida has revoked their tax status or something.
Yeah.
DeSantis said it's like, that's enough. And like, okay, this is a good thing. Like the backlash is hitting. Go ahead, Bruce. You probably know a bit more.
No, you hit all the major points. It's the end of it's the beginning of the open sort of conflict between their side and our side. It's the corporate version of King Kong and Godzilla, I think. But I don't really know who's on whose side, and like I'm not trying to think dualistically these days. It all just seems a bit nonsensical to me. Whether it's Elon buying Twitter or whether it's this stuff or it just doesn't matter. I'm pleased though that they're not making money.
Yeah, it's when you target 5% of the populace for years, and that's the only product you put out, not everyone's going to buy it, and so you ostracize 95% of your market base. Of course, you're not going to make money. I recently watched Ricky Gervais's latest Netflix special. It's funny. He makes the whole room laugh for an hour, so you can't go, oh, he's not funny. There's 1,000 people sitting in front of him who would beg to differ. How he basically points out he is for trans rights and human rights, and but they in common, the political wing of the LGBTQP MOUSE, whatever they're freaking called, they've gone too far, where everything has to be labeled and separated and stuff like that, going back to Kenobi, because the Inquisitor, the third sister, whose name's Reva, happens to be played by a black actress, which is not shocking. We've had black actresses for years now, and some of them are good. She's not. So it's but any criticism, you get labeled, it's because you can't handle a black woman. And it's like, well, explain Halle Berry, because I can watch her in anything. And I've seen Catwoman. I enjoyed Catwoman.
Okay.
See, a movie that is not even, it's so bad, people forgot about it.
Yeah. They actually had the bots make racist comment to her account. And they were pointing at it, saying people are actually doing it. So they preemptively launched a racist, sort of backlash against her.
Well, yes. Now, and out of millions of people, there probably is racist comments being sent to her. I've seen 4. How many people watched Obi-Wan Kenobi?
And all 4 were actually created by Disney itself.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like, it's the whole Kelly Marine Tran, where she wiped her Instagram account. Now, I'm not saying there's a connection. I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists, but it was the same day that the box office receipts of Solo came out, where they realized they lost money. And then I think about a week and a half or 2 weeks later, Kelly actually wrote a letter, and she was actually attacking the industry, not the fans. And they bring up Jake Lloyd, who played Anakin Skywalker in Episode 1. He was treated terribly and went off the rails and all this stuff. But it wasn't the fans. It was maybe a little bit of the media, but it was actually his fellow students in school, because children are pricks, which I still don't understand. There's so many shootings in the United States, then why do you bully people? I do not understand. Why is there any bullying in American high schools? He can just get a gun and shoot all of you. Anyway, and Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. I like Jar Jar. I'm in a minority. I know. Anyway, he got, the backlash was so bad that he almost started to contemplate suicide, but he came out of it. There was a lot of fan backlash at the character, not the actor, but the media aimed it at the actor. And once again, it's not the fans. And this is where this whole toxic fan, if you disagree with the show, if you don't praise the show 100% and, have streamers and fireworks and champagne, you're a toxic fan thing because you have an opinion that differs from the creators of the show.
Yeah.
And it's that division as well. I remember the whole Last Jedi thing. I was called a Russian bot, and I answered, well, on my mother's side, I'm Prussian, so I'm more of a Prussian bot. And and all of it is like I'm a sexist, ist and a phobe and everything else like that. That's how I found like Neurotic and Geeks and Gamers and all them, because their timing was they had similar feelings about stuff, and so that's how they got their crowd. Unfortunately, 4 years later, I don't watch it because they seem to be a bit cranky still. But all I said was I do not like the script. And I don't remember the script being a small minority or a female script, this gender. It's just 80 pages stapled together.
Yeah.
80 pages is a lot for Star Wars.
Well, you go for 200 and a bit hours. I did watch the making of The Last Jedi, so I can go, what the hell happened? And
the thing there, you mentioned something, the fan backlash. Now, this is actually very pertinent because in other side of the in entertainment industry, like gaming and everything, they actually like novelty and creativity, and they don't get enough. Why? Because there's so much trauma when it comes to novelty, because novelty is this sort of uncharted, unknown area to go into. You don't know how it is. So every year they get the same thing over and over and over. That's what we call the Call of Duty franchise. Because they know if they do a little bit of innovation, players will be like, what's this?
Yeah. So I can explain it through a Simpson reference. This Malibu Stacy has a hat. And I have to get it. But there have been moments where, I haven't seen the latest Top Gun movie, but everyone's praising it, going,
everyone's praising it.
You remember when the first Sonic the Hedgehog trailer was dropped? I hate that term. It's released. You don't drop it. Anyway, you may drop something in hip hop, but when that was released, the rendering of the character, everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, that's GI Sonic was horrible. I know.
Yeah. And so the studio, in their infinite wisdom, so like, we're postponing and we're rendering, and you actually got more a rendition of Sonic from the video games, and it made how much money?
It was actually a massive success, but Sonic is actually from Sega, and Sega is Japanese. So
yeah, but I think it was American studios that making the film, and it was so successful they made a sequel. So.
Sonic and Spider-Man, when you try to redesign their characters, you'll have to go through like a room with 12 lawyers in.
Yes. Well, Spider-Man's interesting because it's part of the Marvel universe now, because Marvel and Sony made an agreement where where everyone wins, and you could put forward like the latest Spider-Man film made over $1 billion and it was in cinemas for weeks. Because
Doctor Strange was Spider-Man.
Was well, yeah. I haven't seen the latest Doctor Strange, but there's mixed reviews on that.
Yeah.
but the No Way Home, where it's the multiverse thing. The different Spider-Man, nostalgic, but it was good to see. But Sony helped make it, and the Chinese said, "Oh, you have to get rid of the Statue of Liberty," and Sony's gone, "No," and so China didn't see the Spider-Man film.
The thing is, Marvel's creative bankruptcy is starting to show, because what are they going to do for Phase 4? It's like they don't know what to do, where to take the story, because they have to get rid of all those masculine characters from Phase 3. They don't know how to chime in for Phase 4. So everything is going multiverse now. All the TV shows are multiverse. Everything is branching timeline multiverse. Doctor Strange, which is a load of crap made by a lot of people who probably didn't get paid, didn't get credits for it. And then they brought Sam Raimi in to make like a couple of scenes, made over $800 million. Why? Because people right now are so desperate to watch, superhero movies, to go out to the theater and watch movies, because we don't have anything good these days. That's exactly what's going. When I saw Doctor Strange made $800 million, I'm like, wow.
Well, the bar is so low. When you put out something mediocre, it looks like it's the Mona Lisa, which, by the way, was smeared with cake because of climate change.
Oh, climate change. No one cares about climate change anymore. Now that Russia is in the picture. Let's switch to politics.
No.
All right.
Well, the Australian election, they're saying that the Liberals, the old government, lost because they had their climate deniers, and so the climate change issue is how the new government had won, and so they're doing the whole net, renewables and net zero emissions and all that crap. So yeah, they're pushing that.
The thing about the zero emission thing, they always call it carbon, and sometimes people misinterpret it as being carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is good for you. Carbon monoxide is bad for you.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Well, and also
Most people don't know.
And there's technology to actually stop pumping carbon into the atmosphere, but they don't use it.
Carbon footprint.
Yeah, and all that type of stuff. Like one of those knobs at Davos said, "Oh, we're thinking about tracking your individual carbon footprint." And like, yeah, that doesn't sound a bit Nazi-esque.
It's the new way for the people in power to call us carbon footprint. If they say individual footprint, you're screwed.
Yeah, basically.
So carbon.
And it's.
But yeah. I can guarantee you, if I step outside in even say an Anglosphere city, and I just ask, "Why do you understand my carbon?" People will say carbon dioxide, even though there's an exhaust pipe like 2 meters from them spewing carbon monoxide. It's carbon monoxide that is poisonous. That's not carbon dioxide. But most people right now actually believe it's carbon dioxide, which is a bad thing, because carbon dioxide is good for you, is needed on the planet.
It's a building block. It's one of the 4 building blocks. And like even carbon monoxide, when a volcano pops off, it pumps out 100 years worth of carbon monoxide into the atmosphere. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, we have to tax the mountain. The technology's out there. You can see how if you look at the rise of Tesla, the motor company, not the professor, because he wasn't allowed to rise. He was in the background having tomatoes thrown at him. It's 20 years behind, because there's a documentary in 1999, which was narrated by Martin Sheen, who killed the electric car. And it's a fascinating documentary, worth having a watch, especially now. And all that, the electric cars and popularity should have happened in the 90s. But Elon Musk was either allowed to or just sort of kept it secret, and then he was too popular. Now you have Teslas which can drive ludicrous speed and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still 25 years behind. Air compressed cars that run on water and all this other stuff. If we can use seawater, I think the U.S. Navy is using seawater for some of their fuel on certain ships, boats, vessels.
Oh, probably.
Because I know I've explained this before, but I'll say it again. Water is H2O. It's hydrogen and oxygen. If you can, they both burn. So if you split them, you can turn them into a fuel source. You just have to figure out what to do with the salt. Now, obviously, you don't let it spew out all over the roads. Well, unless you, I mean, that would help during the winter, wouldn't it? If the road's covered in salt. But I'm just an attractive, middle-aged, unemployed comedian who came up with this idea. Imagine if I had a white coat and funding.
Yeah.
You'd be splitting hydrogen from oxygen, Monty, and setting stuff on fire.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, yeah. Oh, look, yeah. Car. Do you know the automobile is still 19th century technology?
Yeah. Combustion engine, pneumatic cars, like recently talked about, but sunflower oil cars.
Yeah, but
all
it's still 19th. So how does your vehicle move? Like in a horse, it eats food and it can use energy and uses its legs to propel forward. Well, what we're going to do is have 4 small cylinders, and we'll have little explosions, and that pushes the piston up and down, and that like that doesn't sell that to an alien, because they can fold space.
and it requires this liquid that our scientists said is sentient, but we're gonna delude people by inventing a story that says long, long ago a bunch of dinosaurs died, and those dinosaurs decomposed and became this liquid. We're going to call it fossil fuel, and that's where fossil fuel was born.
Yeah, and
which is something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, no, because I remember listening to Sean David Morton, where in California there was an oil field and they pumped it dry, and I think it was abandoned for 20 years. And a consortium wanted to build houses there and real estate. But they thought, you know what, with all these pumps here, let's just check if it's empty. And they discovered that the oil had come back. And they didn't build the houses. They went into oil.
Those dinosaurs are playing timeline with us. They retroactively came back, died again, and replenished it again.
Yeah. Someone got a TARDIS and pumped out all these dinosaurs, and they all died again. And it's most of everything is a lie. Well, does that include that statement? Because not everything is a lie. Most of it's twisted out of truth. But eating fruit is good for you. Is that a lie?
No, that is true, Monty.
Yeah,
that's the truest thing you've said tonight.
Yeah.
Eating fruit's good for you, yeah.
Now, obviously, if it's natural, now, obviously, if it's naturally and it's not covered in pesticide, but that's someone's been involved. But as Bruce lives in the new Garden of Eden, he can walk 5 meters from his front door, and he's got a selection of fruit that
it's brought right to the front door, Monty.
There you go. See,
yeah,
an achievement has been made.
So I get my milk and cheese delivered by a native dude who rides a horse bareback, himself barefoot. It's right out of the Lord of the Rings, man. And I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. It's the best cheese you've ever had, man. And
so basically, where you live, because people have said the collapse of Western society is like the Roman Empire with Wi-Fi. And it's not exactly the Roman Empire, but still, where Bruce is living, it's the Shire from Lord of the Rings with Wi-Fi.
And crackheads.
Oh, and crackheads, yeah. Yeah, well, you got to have balance, yeah.
No.
There's just a few of them, but you got to watch their numbers, because you don't want that. You don't want that community growing. It's like cockroaches, man.
Yeah, you want a sustainable.
Listen to that, audience. The new luxury is to have your own land to plow, some random backwater nation to live on, far away from the city, and a sort of outdoorsy nature nearby. Well, something we can't get anymore. Yeah, so your own food, your own plow, your own everything.
Yeah, so
20 years ago, that would have been impossible to do. Yeah.
Well, it'll be looked down at. Like there's a sketch from Saturday Night Live with Chris Farley, And he's like, "Do you want to live in a van by the river?" And back then it was funny because like, oh well, that's a bit. Now that's a massive achievement. Like millennials are saving up for a van and they can go live anywhere.
Yeah.
Just this morning, I was listening to the neurotic say, "Well, these youngsters these days have no skill. They don't know how to farm. All they do is they go to school." I'm like, "Holy shit! What happened to this world?" I remember when mommy and daddy used to beat us to go to school.
Do you remember a guy, Monty, on this network, Brian Porter? He did a show called I Am Nature.
I know the name.
Well, I lost contact with him, but the last I was talking to him, he had done just that. He had gotten a little bit of inheritance money from selling his mom's home after she passed, and he bought himself a trailer and he went and found a place to put it, like not a park or anything, but by a river in Quebec of all places, like the French province. And the last I heard, that's how he was living. And I kind of lost contact with him a couple of years ago. But yeah, so a trailer by the river. That's a pretty tough thing to do in a Canadian winter, man.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yeah, he's right on the border of like Quebec and Vermont there, which is a big ski belt, right? I mean, they get meters of snow.
Yeah, because that's what you want to do in a Canadian winter is live in a metal box.
So I think this is going to be a characteristic of some baby boomers and a lot of Gen Xers, okay, is that people can't retire. Like they can't retire with any dignity. You know, there's no money saved. There's just no way to live, right? And it's, I think, going to become epidemic. And one of the reasons it's so epidemic in our generation is all of the added expenses that we had, which, you know, for a lot of people, it's family court. It's like support payments if you get divorced with children, which is a large percentage of the people, right? And it's greatly affected the generation's ability to retire, you know.
And the generations after just have no hope. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I know you're on the flow.
Yeah, the people coming into the system can't buy a meaningful stake in it. They can't get a home, and the people exiting it are looking at a horrible end of life 2 decades. If they go from 65 to 85, if they even work from right up until they're 65.
Yeah, in certain countries, I'm not sure about here in Australia, but I believe it's in the UK. There's death tax.
What's that?
Or inheritance tax. If you inherit something from a family member, you get taxed, and it's like, granddad, do you want to go because you're living terribly? Oh, I can't afford. I can't die. I can't afford it. Like, what type of reality is that? Oh, we do have a question from the chat room. The one person in there that's typing. This is from Robbie for Bruce. Have you ever tried fresh milk? And if so, how was the experience? So the milk that you get delivered, that is fresh, isn't it? It's not pasteurized or homogenized.
No, it's just come right out of the cow, man. It's still warm.
Yeah. The trick is with with fresh milk, you need to, the use by date is much shorter than the milk you get at a store. So you need to know when. Yeah.
It's loaded with bacteria.
Yeah, good bacteria though. But yeah, no, you generally we get a 2-liter size, and then we got to take care of it pretty quick. And then my wife does some stuff to it, like she boils it once, and then she takes different parts of it. It separates a little bit, and you can get like this cream or cottage cheese, and then the rest you just kind of drink.
Yeah.
But when real milk is closer to yellow than it is to white. I'll tell you that right now. So they're putting coloring in the milk too, which is kind of disgusting, man.
It's cream colored.
No, it's yellow. Like it's like butter.
I think Raz has been a bit cheeky there. Like it's it's the true color of cream. It's yellow.
That's what we would call cream, though. But yeah, I know what.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So yeah. Robbie is from the animal. So I would say yes, the experiences. It tastes better and it'd be more healthy experience than say store-bought milk.
So there's a miracle fruit in the world called guanaba. they're huge. Like even to pick one up is a task. They can be 20, 30 pounds. And nobody in the world eats guanaba except the countries that can grow guanaba because it perishes really quickly. So every once in a while, one of my neighbors comes up the driveway with a guanaba, and I buy it for like $2. And this is the most incredible fruit. It's like Ben and Jerry's does fruit. I don't know how nature could create this flavor. It's like kind of strawberry. It's all just pure fruit. And it's huge, huge. Like it takes you 3-4 days to eat the whole thing, and you got to refrigerate it. And it allegedly cures cancer too. And that's yeah.
Is that one of the fruits that can't be transported? Obviously, you can freeze it.
Yeah, they show it in the Zac Efron video too,
yeah.
On Netflix. That's the guanaba, man.
Mm.
Guanaba.
Yeah, just he's to quote Mo Sislak from The Simpsons, it's like a party's in my mouth and everyone's invited.
Yeah.
So eventually I'll get over there and just you won't see me, bro. Hey, Bruce, I'm here. Cool. Where's the fruit? See you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna eat fruit for 3 weeks, and then have a form of dysentery, because I'm sure that cleans out the system.
Yeah. So I'm in a long fast right now. I started by not eating for 8 days straight, and that ended about 10 days ago. And since then, I've only had like one meal a day, and not even a big meal. And I like to do this once or twice a year, where I just reprime my stomach. And I don't know a lot of stuff, right? Like I don't understand the body and the organs the way somebody like Giuseppe would, with his traditional Chinese medicine and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about homeopathy, I don't. But the one thing I do know is that your stomach is a key to your health. And especially over the age of 40 or 35 even, if you're coming from a North American diet, you should be flushing your system twice a year. Like getting it to the point where like there's nothing there. Like it's like you've had. A lot of people talk about food, in the alternative radio and on this network, what you should eat, what's prohibited by the creator to eat. And I really don't think it matters that much. The most important thing is don't overeat and clean your system out once or twice a year. And it's hard, man. First 3 days are brutal. You get headaches.
Yeah,
brutal.
The body's like, what are you doing? I would add to fasting, knowing what you're putting in, like what's in the food, because most of the food, I've tried to cut down on processed food, but then I get lazy and then have a frozen pizza. But you know what I mean? It's good to know exactly what your food is. Like if you want to eat Domino's for every day for a week, cool, but just know what's in it, and flushing all that stuff will help the body as well. Instead of fighting it all, it can go sort of like a factory setting type thing. And then I'm sure you notice when you have some bad food in inverted commas, because your stomach tells the rest of the body he's doing it again. Like that Mars bar was tainted.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been an international recall on Snickers bar about like one of the few pieces of junk food that I still eat 2-3 times a month. Not since I started fasting, but
see, I told you the dark side will get away. I mean, you may be protected, and you have orbs floating around your compound and everything else like that. But they screw you through confectionery. They'll get you. They'll do, and it'll just be annoying. But to them, it's a win. And it's like, how do we get back at that MacDonald guy? Well, we can't burn down his house. Let's radiate some peanuts and make sure Snickers is recalled. Take that, Brucey. So
yeah.
Because
so,
that's like, I mean, you watch the horror movies and pure evil because they'll stab you with a machete. No, I think pure evil will just like when the paper boy throws your paper at your house and it keeps landing on the roof 8 weeks in a row. That's evil. It's those little things. It's just that little things of like, you buy a Bran and Sultana box of breakfast cereal and there's no sultanas.
Yeah, that could happen.
It's just those little things where, for what the car won't start or what. Yeah, I find that more evil because just those little those little trigger points. It's not like, you'll get hit by a bus, but you'll miss the bus three mornings in a row in winter. And as Bruce and I had a conversation about winter, comparing Melbourne and Canada, and guess who won. But like with, as Bruce mentioned to me, catching a bus in a Canadian winter is a extreme sport.
Yeah. I believe that the expression I used, Monty, was that Canadian school kids are the best bus time arrival handicappers in the world, like Sam Rothstein in Casino. Because you can't be out there longer than like 5, 6, 7 minutes. You'll get frostbite. Just on the little sliver of skin you have exposed between your scarf and where you pull your toque down to. So you just want to get it just to the point where your eyes, but there's always a little piece of skin. Mm-hmm. And you get to school, you look in the mirror, and you've got cat whiskers. It's you've literally been what do you call it, snowburned or frostbitten.
Yes,
it's scars. It takes about 6, 7 days to go away.
Yeah, and that's like, the bus turns up at 8:15. It's like, but it's heavy snow, and I loved how you explained it, where it's almost the same amount of preparation for a space shuttle launch.
Yeah.
Come on, kids, you got to go to school. Hang on, we're just getting telemetry from the probe before we're leaving the house, Mum. All right, then. You could drive us. All right, yeah, you sit down and get your telemetry. I'm not driving out there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the insanity. No, I'm sure you shoveled snow as a child.
Oh, big time, dude.
Yeah. Is that insanity on a base level? Every time, I mean, it doesn't snow every time, but it's like, I just did this. And like, what, 1 meter, 2 meters? Like, when do you give up?
It is the number one cause of heart attacks for men over 50, shoveling the driveway.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're thinking about it. It's like, this is the 48th time I've done it this month. And it's like, well, did you know in Scandinavia, I think it's Finland or somewhere, most of the outside deaths are drunks falling over and falling asleep in the snow.
Yeah.
So it's just be careful when going drinking with Finnish people in Finland in winter. But, parameters, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Let's light this round table on fire, Monty. Let's get it going, man. Let's talk about all the important stuff, like what's going to happen to the ice cream supply chain.
Oh, well.
Do you think it'll ever get so bad you can't find Haagen-Dazs?
Yes. Well, if it's imported, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Does either of you fine gentlemen know any updates with all the container ships hanging out in China and or the United States?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I have a friend that deals a lot with gym supplement and everything. Everything seems to have been postponed by like 4 weeks, and we've been hearing that for the past 8 weeks. So that's 12 weeks now.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, people were sharing radar screenshots of like there was over 100 boats at the side of Los Angeles.
That's all. That
was during pandemic lockdowns. Because once the vaccine came out, the paradigm shifted. And also, apparently, good news, Western Australia are getting rid of their vaccine mandates, I think, in about 10 days.
We just had a motion blocked in the Canadian Parliament today. The Conservatives brought forward a motion to dismiss all COVID restrictions, and an unholy alliance between the Liberal Party and the NDP, which forms a majority, pushed back. And I mean, you just can't even imagine how far the psychotic left goes in Canada. Imagine what California might be like in 2040, and that's Canada now at a federal level. It's spooky.
Yeah. With the virtue signaling and the part-time drama teacher who, we're capping handguns. Like, well, great. So the criminals are going to shoot unarmed people. Well done.
Did you say alliance between NDP and Liberals? That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So wait. Let me get my Canadian politics in my mind. So the Sikh guy is now allying with the Liberals,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and they will
The
not
Sikh,
be
this,
they
the
will not
Sikh,
be bashing each other's policy now, and they will be obtaining a few seats. Explain that to
yeah,
me.
yeah. So, the Sikh guy, Jagmeet Singh, he's just, I don't know how to describe the guy. It's
I
like a
know him. Don't
special.
worry about that. Explain the parliament seat and the
Well,
bashing
we should
policy.
give small backstory for the dear listener. He's got a long beard, wears a lot of a turban. Is not allowed back in India. Uh,
Yeah, he's a terrorist in his own birth country.
yeah. So I mean,
He's affiliated with the 1984
Yeah, the
extremist attack with
Calis,
no, yeah.
yeah, Kalistani uprising, was it called? Or
and was it this year that he flip flopped in like 3 days? He said one thing, someone must have whispered something in his ear, and then 3 days later he tweeted the completely 180 of what he said 3 days earlier.
He's part of the Young Global. What's the name of that guy? Klaus Schwab, Young.
WEF.
Yeah. He's part of it. So that made a lot of people very suspicious about him. His policy sounds like it came from a undergraduate's essay on social science. It's like the most, how can I put this?
It sounds
Basic
like,
level.
yeah, it sounds like Amway when you listen to these people. It's all this like empty rhetoric with no foundation. We will make the world better. How, man?
Yeah.
80 cents a liter for gas? Like, can you get a bit specific?
Okay,
Like, what are you
well,
gonna do?
I can answer
Like,
that. It's like we will make the world better for us.
yeah.
Yesterday I was listening to Ursula von whatever, and she was saying this is the right way to go forward. Yeah, crude oil is now $120. Come on, that's not the right way. It was like 104 before.
Yeah, and well, they're just ignoring basic science and solutions. It's like, no, we're doing it this way. Carbon bad, heating planet, remove all carbon. But
So
in 2024, the height of human technology, half the country will be reading by candlelight.
So back on Canadian politics, the National Democratic Party has joined the Liberal leftists and will now. How many seats do they have in the Parliament, National and Liberals? National should have less
Oh,
than
I don't know. I don't follow it that close.
they
Well,
should
it's a
have
minority.
less.
The Liberals won the most seats, but they didn't have a majority. So to get anything done, they partner with the NDP, and that's it. That's the whole thing, and it's just disgusting to see because everything gets
There won't
dragged
be any
so far
policy
to the left.
bashing now. That's the thing. Because NDP will push their garbage and Liberal won't be bashing it. Liberal will push their garbage and NDP won't be bashing it.
Yeah.
So there will be,
Same
it will
thing
go faster.
Here in Australia with the election, 76 seats is a majority because there's 150 seats in the lower house. And I think they've got 76 or 77, so they don't have to party with the Green Party. They couldn't. They would have to get one or two independents or from a minor party to get majority. But someone pointed out, and it was very sarcastic. It was well done. The good thing about having Labor, which is the left-leaning party here in Australia, in total control, they can be they can plot their own course, and they're their own captain. So all the mistakes is theirs. They can't blame the Green Party, and especially if you get one Green member to get them on board, they have to follow a lot of their ideology, because if they're against it, they'll vote against it, and they won't be able to pass legislation. And so in a way, the Greens would have had not a majority, but more power than the whole government itself.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily that didn't happen. And so for the next 3 years, because federally it's only 3 years, which is short, long in politics, but short in calendar, which is good. So whatever happens from the government, all the bad stuff, it's just the Labor Party. So yeah, there's a bit of positivity news. of like, yeah, well, they may destroy the country. Yeah, but we can blame them. We know it's them.
Yeah.
Because, they're pushing for renewables and getting rid of petrol and diesel cars by 2050 and all this ridiculousness. And like my mum actually says, that we'll get to that point, but there should be a transition, and someone with a brain should actually set up the transition, like having an option instead of, we'll just get rid of the bad thing because global warming, which if you look at the actual data, it's been warmer 80 years ago. But, I mean, as David Icke pointed out, during the Roman Empire, which did go for 900 years, but in a period of the Roman Empire, it was warmer than it is today. Like, I believe they could grow grapes in England, which is that's how warm it was. And then David Icke, so what? The chariots were pumping out the carbon? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah. It's all a ruse, man. It's just pure insanity. It's just look. The only way they can get away with it is we're this stupid and this complacent. Okay, and I'm not saying go out and get yourself into some kind of confrontation with them or anything like that, but creatively find your own life that is strategically isolated from as much of their nonsense as possible. Yeah. And that's the only way life becomes tolerable.
You become the master of your own ship or castle, and you can still live not in the system but with the system. Like, to tell the truth, I haven't really had a job ever, but I've learned to live in the cracks. And
that's kind of amazing. You should write a book on that.
Yeah, but I'm lazy because I haven't had a job for. But I should. How to not work in a roaring economy. So, but I do. Well, I don't earn a wage. I do work. I class this as work. It's more play, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm not just playing video games all the time. I don't play video games. I live in one. So I'm not respawning though. I've learned that lesson.
You see, the perspective that you need to work every lifetime would be pertinent if you understood the world only in 3D5 sense. But since we understand the world beyond that, we understand that this lifetime is just like a break for you. It's just like, this is my holiday lifetime. What's up? Oh, it's my work lifetime. Sorry, I had to work since I was 20.
Yeah, and who tells everyone that, as David Icke, once again, we live in a postage stamp reality. It's only the 5 senses and it's all 3D. Who tells everyone that? Well, it's all the institutions, the government, and then religion. They twist it. It's like, no, work really hard. I'm sorry, Bruce. Were you sitting down for that revelation?
No. I gotta get a glass of water.
Yeah. So some people may think I hate Christianity. It's like, no, I love Christians, especially if they've got a connection to Jesus and it's their personal thing. It's the organized religion part, the church, which has basically ruins this planet. Like the Vatican still maintain that.
I was born in a Hindu family and I love Christianity more than Hinduism.
Yeah.
And I see all my Christian friends going to Hinduism saying, dude, it's so cool. You have so many deities. It's so colorful. I'm like, yeah, it's boring. Get into it. It's boring.
I remember Robin Williams sort of doing, I think it was Robin Williams, a comedian anyway, so I'll just say it's Robin Williams, where like there's Jesus and there's Moses or whatever, Muhammad, and then you got the Hindus and there's 200 gods, so I'm sure Jesus is in there somewhere.
Yeah, he must have one of them on Facebook.
Well, yeah, as Bruce mentioned yesterday. As Bruce mentioned yesterday, we're talking about. That's why I guess I got the idea from because we said it yesterday with the church being bad. Is that if you actually read the Bible correctly, the God of the Bible was selected out of a group of deities.
Yeah, it was like an audition. Yeah. Next. Okay, so now, T.J. Hooker is driving the car and. Next. We love you. We'll be in contact. We love you. We'll be in contact.
Yeah, we'll call you. Yeah. Instead of the voice, it's called the deity. and you know, there's four ascended masters, and they listen just to people on stage spewing all their rhetoric, and if they like it, they press the button and turn around.
Yeah.
I've never watched these programs. I've just seen small clips, and I think I've just nailed the essence of those shows comedically.
Yeah. It's kind of a scam.
Yeah, I did share a meme. It came up in my memories, but I liked it, so I shared it again. I hope the next trend in music is talent.
Uh-huh. That's a pretty good one, Monty. I'm laughing on the inside, buddy.
Well, yeah.
You're killing me, man. You're killing me. I could fart if this keeps up.
Well, then you'll know what's up. Yeah, well, an inside fart. Well, that's gas. But that's also a male way of finding out if your diet is doing well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, 2022, man, we got, what, 6 months left? Or 7?
7. 7. It's the 1st of June here. So we have the solstice in just over 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. That should be quite something. What are you going to do? Chickens?
Well, I'm going to once again try and talk my family into having Christmas, because it is our winter solstice, but we celebrate that at the summer solstice. So, but that's how I time travel, ladies and gentlemen. I go from equinox to solstice to equinox to solstice, and they're 3 months jumps. It works out well.
Yeah.
And as well as like, oh, it's cold, it's winter, but I'm 3 weeks away from the solstice, which means after the solstice, the planet's going to shift, and we're heading towards the sun, so it's going to get warmer. Now, obviously, it takes a while for it to get warmer, but that's how I trick my brain.
Yeah. What are we talking about here? What kind of inclination in the heat? Are we like, you can fry an egg over a year and a half? Like, what are we talking about here?
Oh, well, no. So I'm going to use Southern Hemisphere months, so you'll have to translate into Northern Hemisphere. But say used to be July and maybe August are the coldest months, but that's after the solstice where the planet's tilting toward, it sticks its bum out. But September, October, quite nice. November, right at the end of November, it gets really hot, up to 30 degrees Celsius. And then December and January, that's really when summer hits on average. And like we have the tennis tournament thing in July, first, or in the middle of January, and they fry eggs on the center court because they have the open air. They open the roof to the building, and the temperature on the court can get up to 52 degrees. And then they prove it by frying an egg.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's Melbourne. So can you imagine other part, the desert in Australia? So yeah, when we say it's hot, we mean it's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Oh, what? At night. It's we are the sunburned country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's the temperature like there where you are, Raz?
He's not near his microphone. Oh, there we go.
Sorry. I was doing something. What's the temperature like? It's like 23 or so, which is considered winter in here. 23, Merchants are like, oh my God, that's so cold. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. At the moment, it was 8 degrees earlier in the day, but at the moment it's 11 degrees. And all this week we've been going, overnight it's been 7 or 8, and during the day it's 11 or 12 Celsius. Apparently,
it's actually a little bit colder this year, which is a little bit odd. It hasn't been cold like this for a long time. Even the few degrees drop. I even saw my cats, cuddling together, sleeping together. I'm like, holy shit! Even the cats are feeling cold.
What? How hot does it get? What level of temperature does?
In here, the hot temperature goes, 35, 36, because it's right under the equator in here. So we get the same temperature you get in Australia,
Yeah, I was thinking. Thinking about it today, like, oh, it's cold, but it's 11. Today's a cold 11, but sometimes you have a warm 12. I guess it's if the sun's out. However, say 10 degrees Celsius, Canadians is like, well, I wear shorts. during winter for that. But it gets up to 42 degrees Celsius in the summer, and I think our bodies have acclimated to the strange summer, and so when the winter turns up, because like Brisbane is 2,000 kilometres from where I'm living right now, and I've heard stories of people of Queensland that come down in spring or autumn, and it's 25 in Melbourne, and they ask their friends and family to turn the heater on because it's too cold, because they're not used to low numbers. Like, as you said, 23 is cold, and it's oh, how I dream it will be 23.
23. I remember when I was in Fiji. I mean, the kids in there were like, 24 is cold. They were feeling cold outside. I'm like, really? And they were looking at me like, you got a lot of fat in you. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm built like a Kelvinator fridge on two walking legs, but this is 24 degrees. I mean, it's serious.
Well, we're at the halfway point of Planet Collingwood, so we'll come back and keep talking about the weather, because that's how humanity has evolved. We talk about weather now, and we enjoy it. So we'll be right back after these messages. Stick around. I've done that too many times. And I know last week I read lyrics, but I just remembered that I should do that, and I haven't found any. So let's move on. So I'll here are the words of Orion by Metallica. It's an instrumental, so there you go, your moment of zen. You're listening to Revolution Radio, as the idents have kept saying. This is Studio A, Planet Collingwood. I have been joined by Bruce MacDonald and Raz. My name is Monty Dean. If you enjoyed the last hour, please go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and click on the Patreon button and give what you can. A shekel here, a dollar there, a franc there. We don't accept children. We're not the Illuminati. And once you're there, pop into the merch page and buy a cap, or I don't know if we have a scarf, stickers and scarves. I should write these down, as well as T-shirts and everything else. You know, you're coming into the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Wear that T-shirt proudly when you get arrested and put into a camp. No, I'm dooming and glooming. And obviously pop into the chat room and see why no one's talking. That's because they're laughing so much they can't reach their keyboard. That's how I delude myself. So there you go. We've been talking about weather because why not? You know, you're getting old. It's like, well, no, we've talked about everything else. And the weather is changing. Well, things are changing, and weather is one way of seeing it. I've noticed, this week it's been cold, and I understand why bears hibernate. Those majestic beasts, it starts getting cold and there's first snowfall and the bear goes, bugger this, I'm going to go sleep in a cave for 3 months. I like that idea.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
How about this Ray Liotta thing?
Well, it's a shame that he passed away because he's a very good actor and he seemed like a lovely chap. I don't think I've seen a bad film of his. Or if it's a bad film, he's not bad in it. And all we know is, hang on, Toronto, they're laughing with one hand. Ew. Get that sneeze guard put up on your computers, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, and this one's got a window wiper. Now, he passed away in his sleep. That's all we know, because he was filming, wasn't he, in Mexico or something? And he just passed away in his sleep, and of course, part of the alternative media, the Truth Network, it's the jab. Well, prove it. That's the point we're at now, where with everything, disinformation and deep fakes and blah blah blah, and I mean just the insanity of QAnon. Unless
the MAGA king will take his throne again, Monty, and the world will be restored.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
MAGA.
Make Australia again, autistic again. No. Unless you see something happen in front of you, you don't have to think everything is fake and a lie, but you kind of need to have 3 different points of reference now to prove things. It's just, the age of misinformation. Strangely enough, the media started calling it that after Donald Trump called everything fake news, even though they've been caught faking and lying. But it's there's graphite or graphene in the vaccines. Do you know how expensive that is? It's cheaper to put cocaine in all the vaccines than the graphite. So yeah, just I respectfully say prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that, man. I totally agree. Totally agree.
Because the whole people are dying from strokes and heart attacks. Well, one of the greatest killers in the Western world before 2020 was heart disease. Now, the question that should be asked is why are all these healthy professional athletes who train and eat well having all these heart problems?
Yeah. This is a very curious thing. So somebody was reporting this to me today, I think. I forget already. It was an afternoon conversation I had with somebody. I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that yeah, the data is starting to come in, and it's way beyond that 40% that the bean counters that the insurance companies originally came up with. It's off the chart. From various reasons, and it's just like if you look at the causes of death, it's just like there's no pattern you can find, but it's just like everything's gone up 50, 60, 70% from the numbers from like 2009 to 2019, 2020.
Yeah, and let's use the logic of an 8-year-old. Well, what changed? Well, the vaccine was introduced. Well, let's investigate that, because if you say, the vaccine's safe, okay, fine.
So
for argument's sake, we'll take that off the table. The question still has to be answered, doesn't it? So what's actually happening? Can we look at the vaccines and just saying no, they're safe? That's not science.
Yeah. So the thing about the monkeypox thing is if they mandate a vaccine, if they mandate a vaccine for that, they're going to use a vaccine they worked on about 15 years ago that in anticipation of another pox, chicken pox, monkeypox, smallpox, and it's going to be a derivation of the smallpox vaccine. But what they know about this latest smallpox vaccine already through their clinical testing is that it's extremely deadly to people with pretty much all the side effects from the mRNA vaccine, and myocarditis in particular. Like, it'll kill you if you have myocarditis. You cannot take the smallpox vaccine. So it remains to be seen whether the vaccine regiments and imposed medicine is going to become a new state of affairs in, I think, just the Western world. Where are they coming up with the money for all this? Who's paying for it all to get vaccines to everyone in the world, Africa, all over? Like, who's paying for this?
Oh, taxpayers, like Australia, they bought 200 doses of 200 doses. Oh, that's all right. 200 million doses. And people are like, what do you need all that for? Well, a small part of that would be given out to the South Pacific Islands and Polynesia and so forth. But still, even there aren't that many people living on the islands. And so a large chunk is like, what, 19, if there's 26 million people in Australia. So 200 million.
That's about eight pops each, including children.
Yeah. Well, apparently, the latest from the Victorian government, because of the flu influenza and COVID spikes, the flu vaccine is free for anyone over 6 months old. Now, when they say it's free, it's not free, because the government's paying for it, and where does the government get its money from? The taxpayers. So it's taxpayer funded.
Yeah.
So we're paying for it.
What a scam!
Yeah.
What a scam!
And it's part of the division where I find it weird, because they're still maintaining, in Canada at least, you still have to get vaccinated to be safe. Well, the data doesn't show that. You can still catch it and spread the disease. So it's like here in Victoria, we were sold, you get the vaccine, you'll be immunized. They didn't say it that way, but that's the premise. if they actually said, no, there's treatment, and if you get the vaccine, your symptoms will be less severe, then they could get away with it. But no, they said, no, you'll be fine. And then it's third dose. We just had the fourth dose be introduced because of winter. Kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't. What I mean by kinder is like, well, winter is more, there's more cold and flu in winter because less sun and everyone's stuck together and so on and so forth. But really, like four doses of a vaccine in 12 months, at what point are people going to say, do you think it's working? Like, shot 17, I don't think I need this anymore. And what damage are they doing? Because what's the normal lifespan of a vaccine? It's what, I think, minimum 10 years of perfecting it so they know it's safe and there's clinical trials. But the what was it, 2020? The COVID vaccine was roughly 10 months. Okay. Instead of 10 years. It was very short, basically. And then Pfizer's, all those documents they wanted to keep secret for 75 years, nothing sus. But it came out that the first version of it only was 12% effective, and it lasted 7 days.
Yeah.
So,
and then after a month, it went down to 1% effective. I mean, it's astonishing, given that level of efficacy, and the risk involved in using it because it was rushed and was not properly certified. They created a perfect storm of circumstances where they're non-prosecutable because at the end of the day, you could say no. They made it difficult. They pressured you, no doubt about it, but you could say no. So all claims will be, well, you voluntarily took it.
Yeah, and these idiots want an uprising. Like I understand that in the New World Order have contingencies for rebellion, and they would like it to happen because it will speed things up, and they look like the saviors. But we know that there's going to be a revolution, but it shouldn't be a violent one. Or try not to get a violent one. We're finding another way. I think that's what people are doing. They're finding another way. There are a lot of people that know what's going on, but they know, and they're just living. They're trying to stay. They're in a survival mode, if that makes sense. And then you get people on this station and the Stephen Crowder, and there are people hit the ground running. And they're trying to do things about it, but the illusion that they put forward of the New World Order is that no, it's hopeless. It won't happen, and yet, how many people in your interactions with physical people, like when I leave the house, I don't think the people have taken the vaccines because they trusted the government. Oh no, this will work. All right. But I'm not sure any people are going to start taking the boosters because they felt really ill after the first shot and the second shot. They probably still got a cold or flu / COVID. And it's like, well, and also it's everything else happening at the same time with the lies. And like here in Victoria, we had a curfew because apparently the virus only comes out at night. And they haven't released to the public the scientific data of why they put the curfew in.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, they're provoking us now. I mean, it's like we're just being cattle prodded now. And it's nonstop provocation. And they're trying to break down the human tendency to react. And at a certain point, we have to react. Otherwise, you wake up an X number of years down the road and suddenly you're Chinese. And it's just you're kowtowing to everything, right? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, well, to be fair to the Chinese, there is a way out. They move. they go to the Western world. Now, But also, I find it interesting, like in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, I have pointed out, we have had Chinese people in Victoria since 1855, since the gold rush. There's been Chinese people here. It just happens in the last two decades, we seem to be racist pricks have moved in. There's a suburb near me where even half Chinese people don't feel welcome in like the shopping centre or the mall. My parents don't go there anymore because of the racism, because they're Anglo-Saxon or they're Caucasian. And in Sydney, there are suburbs where immigrants to this country haven't even learnt the language. Now, you learn the language of the country you're in. You move to Japan, you learn Japanese. You move to France, you learn French. And you also know by learning French, the French will love you because you tried.
Yeah, if you try, they love you, but they will still hate you deep down inside, though.
Well, yeah, because they're French. See, now that's an English racism right there. It's a joke, but I mean, the English and the French are very similar because they've had wars. I think the problem is that how long the royal family was basically French for what, half a century or something like that, and the whole
because English is known as a post-Norman tongue. You know, it's post-French tongue.
Yeah. Mind you, in a silly, like, let's go a bit Monty Python-esque, the Norman invasion is just 18 guys called Norman came over on a boat. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I don't open with that when I do stand-up comedy. But I just like the idea. Norman?
The vaccine part was interesting until you switched to Monty Python. Yeah.
Well, it's... there's the vaccine is like, now I know in the United States, strangely enough, the African American community haven't really been vaccinated that much because there's a history of the government being pricks with medical procedures. Like, didn't they spread syphilis in Georgia in the 1950s or something like that?
Yeah, and India and everything. But here's the thing. There is a projected 40 million that will be in dire need of some humanitarian assistance because of famine in the West, in the Anglosphere, by 2024. 40 million.
Where?
In the Anglosphere. So when you add the entirety of the Anglosphere together, so the five countries.
Right.
The West.
Sorry.
No, that's right. You use the technical term. That's what we're using big words now. Yeah, the Anglosphere. Yeah.
Only a Frenchman could use that term, Monty.
It is the Anglosphere. It is the Anglosphere because we have a francophone and we have an Anglosphere. Come on, I'm part of the.
What's the francophone? The strip mall at the corner? Come on.
Oh, it's a new telephone that wasn't popular.
It's those who use the phoneme French. Never mind. So the Anglosphere.
Zing. Well, one to Raz. Yeah.
So the West, the entirety of it, that will be approximately $1 billion worth. At least 40 million is projected to end in what you would call some famine state, humanitarian aid state, because of all the vaccination crap. Then we have currently what else? We have the monkeypox problem. Now the monkeypox doesn't really exist. It's actually a side effect from the vaccine that is the pemphigoid something. Like the skin boil thing appearing. That's point to point similar to monkeypox. And they're saying it's a whole new virus. No, it's not. It's just a vaccine side effect. And they're planning to give you a vaccine for another vaccine's side effect.
I mean, that sounds very big pharma. Yeah. You have to take these, and these. These ones counted the first one, and these ones counted. Now, respectfully, this is where I count. Like, you'll have to show receipts on that, as the kids would say on the street. Where was proof? I would be surprised that it is true, but we sort of have to double down of actually finding the information it's been shown, because it is the age of misinformation. So I'm not poo-pooing you, sir. I mean,
I know.
You understand? Yeah.
I have it.
Sketchy.
I'm just looking for it. You guys talk while I look for it.
Oh, yeah, excellent. Yeah, because like
Dubious.
I've had yeah, I've had a couple of friends who sort of knowledgeable about this stuff, and yeah, there won't be a mass die off, but there'll be massive amounts of cases of immune disorder on something like that. So I I because I'm cheeky, I think I'll wait till 2025 because everyone's going to die. It's like, well, yeah, no, from the vaccine. So when do we start? What, 2035? Can I start going? Well, that didn't work, did it? So
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be no peace until the MAGA king takes his throne again,
yeah,
Monty.
All right.
yeah. All
Mega King.
hail, all hail. Actually, your maggot king. Oh, he's great. No,
The
MAGA,
MAGA.
MAGA, no
The
T.
MAGA.
I put forward. He had a go. He should move on. I could play the age card because he's going to be 4 years older. And no, it's why do they have to be? I think Obama was young, but Trump and Biden technically are over retirement age.
Yeah. They're
So
real old.
yeah,
Biden is incontinent. He poops his pants.
and he doesn't know about it because he's got Alzheimer's or dementia or something, and
But he
yeah,
can't testify. They've taken care of him. He can't testify. He doesn't know where he is most days.
yeah.
Hey man, don't come at me with that jive nonsense. I was fighting for
Yeah, I remember fighting the rebel Reds in the Civil War. Don't you have a go? Like, remember that one of his gaff was, "I've been in the Senate for 120 years." Like, what? How old are you? Were you Moses's kindergarten teacher?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot's changing in my part of the woods. If we can go regional for a moment.
Well, yeah, you've just had an election as well, haven't you?
Yeah, dude. And I am telling you, man, they are gearing up for a big, big pivot in Costa Rica. And what do I mean by that?
You're going
This
western.
is, well, the new president is a hard ass. He worked at the World Bank. He's a numbers guy. He's not like any other Costa Rican who's ever held the office. He's got like a PhD in economics. He's like the MK Ultra Costa Rican. And his wife speaks 5 languages. She's Lithuanian. But the first thing he said is that we're going to let nature take its course with our currency. We're not using our reserves to buy the colonia on the open market anymore. Whatever happens, happens. And his critics are saying, well, that's a really bad mistake because most of Costa Rica's debt is in US dollars. It has to be paid in US dollars. So, if you cut the value of our currency in half, you're really doubling the size of our debt. It's all accountants, mathematics. You guys know what I'm talking about here. But anyways, he plans to do this. So there's going to be like an unbelievable amount of belt tightening in this country. People might actually have to get jobs, Monty. Seriously.
What?
And
I'm not moving there. What?
yeah, and secondly, they're gearing up for a war on the drug cartels here. Like the rhetoric that I'm hearing now is like this is going to happen. They're going to develop special paramilitary forces and they're just going to start killing these dudes. They've had it, man. And all of Central America is like this. I belong to a group called on Facebook called Policias de Costa Rica. It's the police of Costa Rica. And they're advocating out loud now that the new president take the same stance on drug cartels as the president of El Salvador, who said they're terrorists. We're stripping all their rights. Go crack their heads, drag them to jail, and we're going to black site these MFers. I've had it with these guys. But and you know who predicted this? Andrew. Remember, he said that this thing was going to happen with the cartels.
Mm.
And he said it would come out of Washington, but it may very well be coming out of Washington. But I don't know who's behind this, but the party's over for drug dealers, man, and the assassinations are out of control. I mean, it's like this is like on a per capita basis, we have a much higher murder rate than even Chicago. That's a lot of violence to live with, right?
Mm.
And so they've had enough. And the drug gang, they're getting more and more brazen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. they're getting more and more brazen, and they're as armed or better armed than the cops now.
Mm. And if you think about it, New World Order, a small group of people taking control, the cartels are enemies, and they want total control, and so they have to remove those obstacles, which is the drug cartels. The only research I've done is Narcos, but that's a fair assessment of what the cartels are able to do.
And they always do it. The Latinos always make the same mistake. They get more and more brazen with their violence. So what has triggered the population in Costa Rica now is there have been a couple assassinations of guys high up in the drug world. And it's at like a private school when they're dropping their kids off, and there's other kids and parents there. You can't do that in Latin America, man. It's like, okay, suddenly you're not Robin Hood anymore. You're just this crack-fueled nut bar, and the cops should shoot you in the head. It goes from hot to cold immediately. And they bring it on themselves, right? And that's basically, every season of Narcos basically tells the same story. First it's Pablo, then it's the Cali cartel, then it's the Mexican cartels. And it's all uncurtailed power that leads to bad decision making and a complete disrespect for the value of life for anyone not connected to what you do. And when you reach that point, the whole society turns on you. Can't come soon enough, as far as I'm concerned. Did you just have a tinkle there, Monty?
No, I'm pouring some water into a glass because I drink water. There, I said it.
All right.
Yeah, I tinkle during the breaks. And I actually leave the room and go to a smaller room to do it. Why am I telling you this? I don't know. But yeah, they get too brazen. Like there's a TV show that was released here in Australia. It was a television event because it was following the gang war in Melbourne from 94 to 2004. And I think the show was released 2007, 2008. And I watched some documentaries about that as well because I found it fascinating because it's dramatized, so it's not 100% true. And so find out really what's going on. And the difference was the new type of criminal have been watching way too many movies, and they think they're like Scarface or in a casino and all that type of stuff. And they would just shoot someone and leave them in the street. Now, the old school gangsters before that, the generations before that, you would never see the body. They'll just remove someone and they'll just disappear. There will be no trace of them. Now, one of the most shocking murders that happened here, I think it was in about 2003, 2 men were shot sitting in the front of like a high ace van, like, a people mover. Not a, so it was for, got 6 seats in it basically. The 2 men in the front seats were shot with a shotgun and then a handgun at a football match, and the 2 kids were sitting in the back seat.
Oh God, yeah. So that's what happens, and they just push it over the edge, and people get fed up, man. They have enough.
Yeah, you get the public offside instantly, and like the trauma, like the kids were splattered basically, and so those kids are traumatized for the rest of their lives. Especially when one saw their father get killed in front of them.
Yeah.
And
so you can't
at a football match in a city, Melbourne, basically like that. So, yeah, the football games were under 10s, and it's Australian rules, but it doesn't matter. It's a sporting thing. Kids and family and your parents everywhere, and this one guy just came up wearing a balaclava and did his work. And I remember seeing it on the news because it's so that now obviously in Central America or in South America, that's like the average thing to do now, which turns the public against them quite easily. But that was the most grotesque murder of the whole gang. I think now for Melbourne, it was up to 32 homicides in 10 years. And that may not be a lot everywhere else, but it was here. And that's why they made a TV show about it, because it's so fascinating of what went on. And, I'll stop there. But, yeah, they're all idiots. That's the thing as well, where they get so brazen. And, like, you can see Pablo where it's, like, honor and he's disrespecting me and all this stupidity. And they make mistakes.
Yeah. And it's just basically it's the same problem every time, right? And there's really one problem with the human race, and it's power. How do human beings um, hold power gracefully? And it's any kind of power, whether it's the beauty of Amber
Philosophy,
Heard, huh?
philosophy, intelligence. But never mind, keep going.
No, there's no mental barrier to the toxicity of power, man. That you're just fooling yourself there, Raz.
Um,
No,
yeah,
I
we'll
think
see. We'll see.
I think that's what it should be, but it's not. It's there isn't a level of intelligence because, I mean, I watch way too many crime shows. I'm glad I'm slowly ending them, but like Nucky Thompson in Broadway Empire, or Franklin from Snowfall, or all these big characters. Al Capone, like how insane was he? And
Yeah,
the just the anger and for they're control freaks, and if one thing goes out of the way, they snap and wipe out a bus full of nuns or some ridiculousness like that.
yeah.
It's what is the actual quote? Power corrupts, but absolute corrupts, and then there's the rest of the sentence. People just only quote the first half. They forget the next half, where I can't remember. It's basically like anyone in power has the possibility of being corrupted. It doesn't mean if you have power, you will be corrupted. That's the actual true quote. That I'm saying the premise. I'm not saying the quote properly, but
Yeah. Absolute power corrupts absolutely is the simple quote.
yeah. But then the next sentence, or the other half of the sentence, qualifies what that actually means. So I'm actually trying to think of a leader that wasn't corrupted by power. And it's like, yeah, I think you're onto something here, Bruce.
Yeah.
Because it's
Well, like I said, I mean, so why is Amber Heard such a psycho? Because she can be. She's been corrupted by the power of her own beauty, right?
Mhm.
It's just power is power. It comes in many forms. My least favorite version of power is power attributed to a bureaucrat. I find that they're the worst, like bureaucrats. What little power is given to them.
Yeah, like a
But
parking inspector. Like you get a good parking inspector, then you always know, you remember the bad parking inspectors.
yeah, I mean, if you take away all the conspiracy theory and all the sort of nonsense in our world, about what's going on in the world and stuff like that, I mean, you could say that from the end of the Cold War, we just handled power very poorly, like very, very, very poorly. It was not balanced well. It was not used well. It was completely non-sustainable. If we wanted to create an inclusive and an equitable world, which seems to be their stated intent from the expansion of the banking business. So there's all these inherent contradictions in everything we do, and we're caught now. We're caught in the fox trap when we chew our foot off, or we stay and wait for the hunter.
Yeah. But also that it seems to be crunch time in that aspect, where it's a time for humanity to say, "Hey, stop that." Like people refer to it as the Great Awakening. I pointed out where it's just they're awakening to the corruption in the system. They haven't even looked to the spiritual awakening about doing inner work and all that type of stuff. But can you imagine the establishments and the political system with even 5% of corruption? Like everything could hum along quite nicely, where the people behind the curtains would still make money and not hurt as much people, and still have control. But I think they're on a timetable. They know something's coming, or they think they're running out of time for whatever reason, and they keep making mistakes. I do find it interesting when people say, "Oh no, they're already won." Really? Because they suck at it. Because like Agenda 2021. Well, that was last year. Oh no, it's 2030 now. Oh, and 2050. I could put forward that the 9/11 was supposed to be the catalyst of total lockdown control, martial law. Here we are, 20 years later.
Yeah. 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 So it's an open declaration now. It's been this way for a while. And I think a lot of people are just avoiding the conflict because they're completely pussified. Right? Oh, that's not really happening. No, no. That's ugly. No. It's just, not going well.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance as well as putting into an element of survival mode. Well, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to do this and do
It's
that.
just the start. It's just the start, Monty. They're starting to show us what they're going to do. They don't even have the chips in or all the deeper technologies or that they've declared anyways. That stuff may be in us already. I don't know, but I mean, they haven't even declared that stuff. The stuff that people read about and they go, "Oh my God, this is a surveillance state." Well, just it already is. Just with the limited system they have now, your social insurance number, your access to bank accounts, your shutting off your cell phone, um, geolocating you, all of these sorts of things, right? I mean, it's and this is just the beginning of their power. What's going to happen if they get more power? And who is stupid enough to believe at this point that giving them more power? Remember, this dialogue began out of this philosophical conversation about power, and the solution is to give these people more power. They're not even managing the power they have now well.
Well, and
More
then
power.
certain people, some people believe they're doing the right thing. And what I mean is, as an example, is like Justin Trudeau is supported by a certain percentage of the Canadian people. However,
Yeah,
there's a lot of other people going, no. I could have ranted for 5 minutes, a lot of swearing, but I'll just condense it to no. Because it's, Justin Trudeau's going to save Canada. Really? He seems to be following the dictator handbook, word for word, where the unvaccinated can't travel and we're getting rid of, handguns and blah, blah, blah. And everything that he's doing, it's like, there's a litany of dictators through history where they've done the same thing.
yeah.
I mean, calling freedom for the freedom convoy for the truckers terrorists because they differ. They don't like his opinion or what they can't take critique. I mean, they're so over. Oh, we're freezing your bank accounts because you stood up against us. How immature are you that you're afraid of the people?
Pretty immature is the
Yeah.
answer, Monty.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty immature.
Well, and also Canada still maintains, the government still maintains there's a deadly disease out there that's killing everyone.
Deadly,
Well,
Monty. Deadly.
Very, very, very deadly. Listen, guy, very deadly, all right? It's a bit of Terrence and Phillip. But the science doesn't show that. Now, if you catch the original COVID-19, if it, or it's a form of a cold, it could kill you because you're overweight or you're old and blah, blah, blah. But Omicron is better to get. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I don't follow this. It looks like if you get the Omicron variant, it's probably safer to do that than getting a vaccine. Because if you remember, Bill Gates actually said, unfortunately, because he started the paragraph with unfortunately. That's the key word here. Unfortunately, with the new variants in Omicron, because it's mild, it seems to be doing the work of the vaccines better than the vaccines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so weird when you show people this stuff. Like, Bill Gates doesn't want to depopulate people. Then you show the TED Talk where he says, then there's population, and we can cut that by 15% if we implement vaccines. An 8-year-old would understand what that means. It's just using basic maths. You want to remove population through vaccines. What? I mean, instead of mass death, I mean, that's still sterilization or something. It's like, what? And the planet, and it has been, we're under bad management. We're not full. We're not overpopulated. It's bad management. And the planet can sustain so many more people if we work together. And actually, I could use you as an example, Bruce, because you've got your Pablo and you've got a connection to the natives and, you all get along. You're human, so you don't do it well, 100% all the time. but you've got that small community, and you're still moving forward, and people getting married and having kids, and you're doing human things.
Yeah,
So
life goes on big time here.
yeah, yeah. Even I could say it. Even in Melbourne, the majority of people are trying to live the best life that they can with their limited information that they have. And
So
we get to the point in the conversation of the media has turned into the enemy of the people.
yeah, so I'll tell you, from another thing from my travels is that the higher the income bracket gets, the general aggregate income bracket and well-being of your society, the less likely people are to procreate. I mean, I saw it in Taiwan, and then I see it in Canada. But recent immigrants who are coming from a different culture, I mean, they'll have the 4 or 5 babies. And here in Central America, there's like a fearlessness when it comes to breeding. It's just fearlessness. They start having their kids at 18, 19. Let's get on with this. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know where all this fear came. I think it's the way we structured our lives, and like with the university and everything and all this crap, right?
Well, if I can add to that, it's say if we go back 120 years in the West, using England, Scotland, Ireland, even the United States as well, Italy, Canada, most of Europe, the traditional family based, not states, but huge Italian families, huge Greek families, huge Irish families, mainly people in the 1880s. Parents usually had 8 kids and hoped that one made it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, that could come down to like with if you've got upper middle class and there's more affluence, there's probably more medical technology, and you want to have fun, and your kids are going to be okay. So you have usually you should have 2, at least 2, so you can be replaced. But you can understand, in simple terms. And so, but if you're living in El Salvador now, it's like, well, there's nothing else to do, so you get it on with the ladies. But you have 8 kids, and you hope for the best that they all make it, because of the environment that's happening around in a certain way. But also, I guess it's living on top of a mountain. It's like, well, why not have a big clan? It's just like the Scottish 300 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's an element of environment and survival.
Yeah. So I find the Ray Liotta death a bit suspicious, because it happened in the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? I always find it a bit suspicious when people die abroad. Most people die close to home. You know that, right? Whatever their home is at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're going to go as peacefully as dying in your sleep, why would the forces that be do that in a foreign country? You know what I mean?
While working on a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. There's just so much stuff that doesn't make sense now, man. And just all the people that are dying, like you can just see it in the celebrity ranks. It's like a culling, man.
Well, remember 2016. That was the year of the. I think it was. People say David Bowie went first, and it all went to pot. And Metalheads was like, no. Bowie died 2 weeks after Lemmy died. Lemmy found out, I think it was Boxing Day or Christmas Eve. He found out he had cancer. 48 hours later, he had passed. And that in the timeline, Lemmy died, everything went to shit. And I think Bowie was 2 to 3 weeks later, in January of 2016, he died. But there was a mass. There seemed to be, and it wasn't just one generation. There was a lot of celebrities. But if you're into entertainment, 2016 was really hard because so many famous people passed on for whatever reason. So it's 6 years later? Are we having another celebrity clean out?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird. They just start going, and then it's just like all the time, man. Like every week, there's 1 or 2 of them. But I was a little surprised with Ray Liotta because he's fairly young, 67.
Well, yeah, but in the 80s, he wouldn't have been young at 67. So, I mean, we have longer lifespans in the last 40 years. And for whatever reason, sometimes I jokingly said, I think he went to sleep and made a choice, and he decided not to come back. So who knows? I mean, let's get into the spiritual side of things of whatever's happening on this planet. It has been put forward that some souls won't be able to. Now, this is not what happened with Ray Liotta. Some souls won't able to hack what is actually happening in the physical at this point in time because it's so intense and some souls say, oh, I'll be able to do that, and they're halfway through and like, yeah, that's enough. So that could be a possibility. It also could be a possibility of free will. Excuse me. They signed soul contracts 10,000 lifetimes ago in the womb, where they'll get to a certain point and dip out before the major push, so they can help on the other side.
Yeah. All very optimistic, Monty. All very.
That's how I get through life. Well, I try and be different on here on the old station, because if I go the other way, and plus I've hung out with goths. I don't like being negative all the time. Just like, it's so fun making goths laugh. It's like, yeah, I just you're not acting like your social group. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what else we can cover. How about crypto? What can we say about crypto?
Not much. Well, for me, I always thought it was just digital version of the central banks, and to me it was like gambling, and so I never got into it. So we've got that too. But it kind of makes sense. Like for a while there, it was an alternative. However, the NWO eventually crept in, and now they seem to be manipulating it because once again they want total control. This small group of people want total control. And you can't have options.
Anyone in here watch Devils, the TV show Devils?
Never heard of it.
All right, so it's latest, but they were covering coronavirus and crypto in this. Like every event that happened was in the TV show, and the characters were just doing alternate stuff. And one of the fun thing is that one character says, "What about Nakamoto? No one ever saw him. He disappeared. How do we know Nakamoto is even Nakamoto and he created Bitcoin?" And that was actually very, very key, because has any one of you ever seen Nakamoto?
No, I know in the blacklist, Redmond ratings, and I know him, and it's just a nice throwaway line because does he exist or not?
Does he exist? Exactly. Now, Bitcoin is fun because it doesn't allow central bank. Yay, you can do all kinds of transaction without, a centralized point. Do you really believe in this world of banking we live in, they will allow such a thing to go rampant?
No, they just invested as well, and they can manipulate it by shorting it or lowering the price.
To me, is the biggest psyop in this, in this era at least, and after Terra Luna or whatever whatever it's called, lots of people lost lots of money. Remember Dogecoin? Mm-hmm. Lots of people lost lots of money, and you should see the sort of investment that's going on in there. It's pure gambling.
Yeah,
it's that gambling fever going on. If so much as one guy in their peer group wins or invests, they invest too, because the brain is investing. I'm gonna invest too. It's that sort of stupidity that gets to them.
And I'm optimistic, but I'm also cynical at the same time. It's an interesting mix where a solar flare. Not many people have a Faraday cage. Now, I'm not saying cryptocurrency would be wiped from the planet, but 99% of it would be, because everyone just has a digital wallet on a hard drive sitting out somewhere. Not everyone's. Well, in the last 2 years, there's more preppers, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if they turn off the power, how are you going to use crypto?
Yeah, it could also be a sort of right now they're just leaving it in the hands of what you would call the indies, the indie developers to just run around with it, toy with it before they go full on formal throughout the population. But the Nordic countries, one of the Nordic countries has switched partially to virtual currency, I think. No, not virtual currency, but they're not using notes and coins.
Yeah, electronic and just on tapping and everything else like that. But that's the thing as well. Like, if you've seen the movie Demolition Man, that's turning into a documentary. It's weird, where if everything is electronic, they can just turn you off. As in Canada, they froze everyone's bank accounts because it's electronic.
I mentioned this last time, I think, on this show. They were saying notes can carry coronavirus, so we need to stop using notes and coins, and we need to switch to digital. Yeah, that was in there. I'm like, oh my God, everything ties together. Yeah. But cryptocurrency to me is the kind of thing I would never touch, even with a ball being held by someone else. It's just too psyop for me. It's just too loose, too many variables, too unstable, too the word? Volatile.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either, but I don't go around telling people that have crypto, oh, you're stupid, blah blah blah. It's like, well, if you want to do it, and like, say, because it's been around 10, 15 years, it's very short lifespan. However, if you got in at Bitcoin at $3 a coin, you know, I would have sold at 60,000 and made all this money. Or like, a gambler's trick is whatever money you invest, you make it back and you take out the money that you invested, and whatever happens, happens. If you know what I mean. Like, you could, I lost 50 billion, but I still had my principal investment that I saved from the get-go.
Now, it comes with this blockchain ledger sort of system that people tend to believe is unhackable. It's not unhackable. It just requires high processing system and enough brute forcing power to get through it. And Chinese mining operation can do that. They've bought massive amount of graphics card that has high processing capabilities, and they're running mining, Bitcoin mining over there. It's quite something.
Yeah, and what's the technology that we don't know about? That like it was said, say from the 80s, 90s. I'm not sure about now, but if you saw military hardware in movies, the military had it 5 or 10 years earlier. Did you know that the VHS, the magnetic tape, video player tape, VHS beta, that was created for Vietnam because they realized film was expensive. So they've created a technology to actually have the combat footage, but they can reuse the tape over and over again.
Yeah,
a video player in the 60s. The compact disc, I think, was created in the 70s or something like that. But Laserdisc, like those 12-inch Laserdiscs, were 86, 87, mid to late 80s. And then the compact disc was released to the populace, 87, 88 was when they popped on. And they took over the industry by 90, 91. Like, people still sold records, but over the 90s, vinyl just completely dropped. In
2020, if you guys were reading the news, I don't know if you were, in 2020, somewhere in the middle, right when the coronavirus lockdown were kicking in, there were a few headlines that quickly disappeared. And the headlines said, the leaders are meeting right now to discuss what future technologies are to be released. And I didn't see those headlines ever again in the last 2 years. They were actually meeting to discuss, hey, so what do we give these guys now? What do we release? Why don't you go ahead, Tim? And Tim was like, I don't know. Last time the whole printer kerfuffle was quite something. Maybe we should release some. And that was mid-2020s.
Yeah, they were talking about quantum. Talking about quantum computing, and I think it's moved from theoretical to practical. I'm sure someone has something, that's one of the goal, and I can't remember what exactly quantum. because it uses the quantum realm where it's like, oh my god, the processing unit. Bill Gates said, oh, we'll never get a computer faster than the 486 or whatever it was, and here we are today. Like, dear. I mean, yeah, it's I've known of people going to Japan, and they go to like the Sony factory or the office of Sony, and they've got video watches from '98, and they've got all these ideas, but it has to be practical to be sold to the public. So
It's not
creation
just
of it.
practical, but it also has to be limited, because since you brought in the Japanese, remember when Japan made their first cameras and they were taking pictures of auras and everything, Kurdian photography style, and they had to call back all of it and redo it so it's more appropriate for the civilian use. You get what I'm saying? So when you create technology in this world, you tend to create it very efficiently in its perfect form, like Tesla did and all that. But you can't just market that. You have to somehow kneecap it. You have to reduce it. You have to tweak it for the civilian use.
Yeah, it's all about control. Yeah.
Yeah, in 2020 they were discussing that, and I'm like, oh, there's cool new technologies are coming out. Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, that's a great place to end, because we've got about a minute till the bumpers. So any final thoughts for the dear listener? Raz?
Nothing much. These are boring times. Wait till August for something interesting to happen.
Yeah.
Well
With everything,
said.
everything that's happening, we're the type of people that's like, nothing's going on. There's all this distraction. But Bruce?
Right now, just watch TV shows, audience. Relax, watch TV shows, take care of your body, accumulate your strength for what's going to happen for the remaining 4 months. They're going to start revving it up. So, that's all I'd say.
Whoa.
Anything else, Bruce, as we go to the breaker?
Bees and frogs, you're probably safe.
Yeah, excellent. That was Planet Collingwood. We'll be back in 6 days and 22 hours. Thank you, boys or gentlemen. Thank you, listeners. It's good to be back on YouTube. Don't mention the war. See you soon. Take care. I love you from afar, and we'll keep it that way. See you later.